The bus groans to a stop beside a wind-bent sign, and Lena Hart steps into a salt-stung morning that feels like borrowed time. Her suitcase is small enough to pass for a lie. The coastal town blinks awake with gulls, bait shops, and the patient roar of waves. She walks, counting breaths, hiding her name the way some people hide diamonds. The mansion appears by degrees along the cliff road, all gray stone and glass, as if the sea carved a house out of cloud. Word is the owner keeps to himself. Reclusive, untouched by need. When the gate opens, she meets Mara Linwood's measuring smile and soft command, and a list of rooms as long as a confession. The silence inside hums with a history she cannot see. Somewhere within that hush waits Elias Moreau, a man who wears grief like a tailored suit. Lena palms the key they hand her and tells herself this life will hold. Mara instructs with the rhythm of someone who has seen people arrive and vanish like tides. Breakfast trays, glassware counted, terraces swept before 11. Lena writes it all down even as her thoughts drift to the cliff below, that muscular sea, breaking itself over and over. She inventories rooms with a professional calm that feels borrowed. In the sunroom, she pauses, startled by a piano's lingering scent of polish and grief. A photograph of a woman smiles from a side table, youthful, candid. The image of an unfinished sentence. Footsteps in the hall make Lena stand straighter. Elias passes the doorway, offers a courteous nod that lands like a bell rung in a cathedral. No words, just a glance that recognizes another soul, carrying something heavy, yet refusing to set it down. The afternoon smells of lemon oil and rain. Lena works the terrace glass with patient circles, the cloth warming in her hand, the sea repeating itself like a mantra. Her reflection comes and goes, layered over the horizon, a transparent self that might yet become real. She practices new answers in her head. I grew up inland. I came for quiet. Nothing to hide. Nothing. When she looks down, the rocks show their teeth. Far inside the house, a door closes, and a muted chord leaves the piano as if by accident. She straightens, surprised to find Elias near the threshold, sleeves pushed back, eyes green as seagrass. He asks if the light bothers her. She says the light keeps her honest. His mouth tilts, not quite a smile, and the room feels less like a museum and more like a place one could breathe. Mara finds Lena folding fresh towels, offers tea, and asks nothing that would require a lie. The kindness threatens to undo her, so Lena sips to anchor her hands. Upstairs, a guest suite looks untouched in the curated way of memory. She smooths the duvet and discovers a single wilted rose petal beneath the pillowcase, the ghost of a private ceremony. Outside, gulls draw white commas against the sky. In the hall, she almost bumps into Elias carrying a box of sheet music. He apologizes, the accent of expensive schools sanded by grief. When a page slips, Lena catches it before it lands. Something like trust flickers in the exchange, the fragile sort that needs quiet to grow. He thanks her, and for the first time, she hears warmth in his voice. Night comes quickly on the coast, a velvet rise that hushes the rooms. Lena returns the cleaning caddy, checks the staff clock, and walks to the small path leading to the overlook. The tide yawns open and closes again. She takes the photograph from her pocket at last. A younger Lena smiles beside a man whose handsome face hides a storm. She presses the picture to the wind and lets it go. It tumbles, catches, and slips into black water. Her heart knocks. Behind her, footsteps choose their weight. Elias stands a careful distance away, offering silence as shelter. He says the water here takes what you give it and returns something different. She nods, grateful for words that feel like a hand without pressure. They face the dark and listen to the sea, teaching them how to endure. The next morning dawns pale and salt bright, clouds trailing like ribbons over the cliffs. Lena wakes before the bell, heartbeat matching the crash of the tide. She slips into the mansion's rhythm, footsteps muted on marble, voices never raised. Mara's instructions come softer now, as if habit is already turning into belonging. Elias keeps to his library, though she hears his footsteps through the vents, pacing, pausing, pacing again. By noon, Lena delivers a tray of coffee and finds him at the grand piano, head bowed, fingers hovering but refusing to play. When he finally looks up, something unguarded flashes across his face, a man startled by being seen. She sets the tray down without a word. He thanks her too quietly, his voice gravel and silk. Between them, steam curls like a secret testing the air. That night, rain turns the garden into a mirror. Lena helps Mara gather linen from the lines strung between laurel trees, laughter muffled in the downpour. For a moment, she forgets herself, face tilted up to feel the cool drops slide down her skin. In the library window, Elias watches unseen, the faintest smile tugging at restraint. He remembers a night years ago when his wife had danced in rain just like that. Fearless and unashamed, the memory cuts and soothes at once. Inside, he turns away before the ache can win. Outside, Lena spins once in the storm before catching herself. No one is allowed that much joy when they're pretending to be someone else. Days settle into a rhythm, the sound of the sea under every conversation. Lena cleans, catalogs, repairs, learns the patterns of a life larger than hers. Once, she finds a stack of unopened mail addressed in an elegant hand. Without thinking, she sorts it by date, aligning edges perfectly. When Elias discovers her order, he studies her as though she's rearranged his heart instead of his desk. "You're efficient," he says, almost teasing. She meets his gaze, answers softly. "When you've lost things, you learn to keep what you can neat." The quiet after that feels alive, like the air before thunder. At dusk, Lena takes refuge in the greenhouse, trimming dead leaves from orchids. The glass hums with trapped warmth. Elias appears at the doorway, his presence quiet but weighty. He asks if she minds company and she shakes her head. They talk of flowers that only bloom after storms, of places where the wind tastes of iron. His voice deepens when he speaks of Paris, of nights that ended in silence and broken headlights. He stops himself, but the confession already lives between them. Lena wipes her hands and says softly, "Some things grow back even when they shouldn't." For a long moment, the sea is the only sound. That evening, the mansion falls quiet, except for the ticking of clocks. Lena lies awake in her small room, rain dripping from gutters outside her window. Her old fear creeps back, the sound of tires on gravel, the slam of a door that once meant danger. She grips the sheets until her breath steadies. In the hall below, Elias sits with a decanter untouched, the same restlessness binding him to the hour. He almost calls for her, just to hear another voice, but he doesn't. Instead, he walks to the window and watches the faint light beneath her curtain. Two souls, each listening for the other, separated by silence and a past that neither can yet name. The storm arrives without warning. First a hush, then a scream. The mansion shutters rattle, lights flicker, and the sea below churns like a living thing. Mara orders the staff to stay inside, and for the first time, Lena finds herself alone in the grand hall. As thunder breaks above, she gathers candles from the pantry, flame trembling with every gust. When Elias appears carrying a lantern, the sight of him, wet hair clinging to his temples, breath sharp with cold air, feels almost unreal. "Power's gone," he says simply. She nods, voice caught in the silence that follows. As they light the hall together, their hands brush once. Sparks are a cliché until you feel them. They move through the dark house like conspirators, checking windows and closing doors. In the library, Lightning outlines every title on the shelves, words burning and vanishing in white fire. Elias watches her trace the spines, her lips moving silently, and wonders what kind of woman hides tenderness behind such caution. "You read?" he asks, not to fill space, but to stay near her voice. "Sometimes," she answers, "when it's safe to imagine other lives." The power flickers once more, then dies completely. He strikes a match, and for a second the room is carved in amber, her eyes reflecting flame, his reflection caught in the glass behind her. Hours pass. The storm refuses to rest. In the kitchen, Lena boils water on a gas stove, hands trembling slightly from exhaustion. Elias enters quietly, offering his coat when he sees her shiver. She hesitates, then accepts. It smells faintly of cedar and salt. For the first time she laughs, a soft, startled sound almost foreign to her own throat. "I'm not usually this useless," she says. He answers, "You're surviving a storm." "That's not useless." The rain pounds harder, but something between them softens, like a wound beginning to close. By midnight, the house quiets under the weight of wind. They sit in the library again, the fire low, conversation wandering from cities they've lost to people they no longer name. Lena tells him about the lake she used to swim in as a girl, how silence there could feel like forgiveness. Elias listens as if she's reading scripture. When he finally speaks of his wife, her laughter, her sudden death, Lena doesn't interrupt. She only says, "You blame yourself because you loved her, right?" The words land like absolution, and he looks at her as if something has shifted forever. When dawn breaks, the mansion smells of smoke and wet stone. The storm has passed, but the world feels rearranged. Lena steps outside to breathe the raw air, cliffs glistening under pale light. Behind her, Elias joins, silent as the tide. They stand side by side, the ocean stretching endless below. "It's strange," she says, "how storms can clean more than they break." He glances at her, sunlight in his eyes. "Sometimes," he replies, "they make you see what's been standing right in front of you." Neither moves closer, yet the distance between them feels suddenly alive, humming with everything unsaid but already true. Spring arrives suddenly, in green shoots between stone paths and sunlight spilling across the terrace. Lena wakes to the scent of blooming jasmine curling through the open windows. Elias invites her to accompany him on a morning walk along the cliffs, jackets tucked close against the chill. They speak freely now, sharing scraps of stories once locked behind walls. She tells him about her childhood sketchbooks, he about Parisian cafes and dreams abandoned too early. Laughter comes easy, the first real lightness in months. When a gull arcs overhead, Lena stretches her arms wide as though she could hold the wind itself, and Elias watches, heart clenching at the effortless grace she carries, even while hiding everything. In the mansion's kitchen, Lena teaches Elias to bake bread. Flour coats their hands, dusting the counter like snow. He laughs when she smudges it across his nose, and she laughs too, a sound full of warmth she's been starving for. Mara peeks in from the doorway, smiling knowingly, leaving the two to their small rebellion against order. The dough rises slowly, but their connection rises faster. Tentative, uncertain, yet impossible to ignore. For the first time, Lena allows herself to imagine a life not defined by fear, and Elias dares to hope that grief might bend around something new. That evening, Elias shows Lena the mansion's rooftop garden. Lanterns sway gently in the twilight, flowers humming in shades of violet and amber. He offers her a glass of wine, and they toast to moments stolen from the past, to laughter, to survival. When the first stars appear, Lena reaches for his hand, and he doesn't pull away. Fingers brush, then entwine, hesitancy melting into something like certainty. Neither speaks, Words would only weaken the fragile perfection of this fragile connection. The night smells of salt and roses, the kind of night that writes itself into memory. A visiting journalist arrives unexpectedly, papers in hand, curiosity glinting in her eyes. Lena freezes, her old life, meticulously buried, threatens exposure. Elias greets the guest politely, masking suspicion beneath smooth charm. Lena retreats to the library, heart hammering. She touches the piano, feeling the ghost of music that once offered solace. Elias joins her moments later, closing the gap silently. He whispers, "Well, handle it. Together." Lena feels a weight lift, not from fear gone, but from trust finally anchored in another soul. For the first time, she believes she might survive love as fully as she survived herself. By midnight, the house hums with quiet triumph. Lena and Elias stand on the terrace once more, wrapped in a blanket against the cool night. Stars mirror the glimmering waves below. Lena leans into him, feeling the steady rise and fall of his chest, the certainty of his presence. Elias whispers her name like a prayer, and she finally allows herself a smile that doesn't carry fear. Somewhere, the mansion breathes with them. Every stone and shadow an accomplice to this fragile new bloom of hope. Outside, the sea roars gently. The storm behind them. The future unwritten, but promised. Spring fades into early summer, but the past refuses to stay buried. Lena walks along the cliffside path, letters clutched in her hand, a familiar unease tightening her chest. She remembers Daniel, his charm, the nights that ended in terror, the secret that forced her to flee. She thought it gone forever, but whispers in the wind remind her that shadows linger. That evening, Elias waits on the terrace with the sunset bleeding gold into the waves. She cannot meet his eyes. She does not yet have the courage. "I need to tell you," she murmurs. The words are heavy, trembling like a fragile bird. Elias tilts his head. Green eyes soft but steady. "Then tell me," he says. "I can bear it with you." In the library, Lena finally speaks. She tells Elias everything. Daniel's manipulation, the fear that shaped her life, the false names, the nights she thought she wouldn't survive. Her voice cracks and falters. She closes her eyes as if speaking might make the memories real again. Elias listens without judgment, every feature composed yet tender. When she finishes, the silence stretches, heavy but not empty. Finally, he reaches out, taking her hand gently. "You survived," he says, "and that's more than enough. We'll face whatever comes next, together." Lena feels a warmth she hasn't known in years, a grounding, a tether she can finally trust. Later that night, Lena paces the terrace while the ocean breathes beneath a silver moon. Memories of Daniel's threats float like sea foam, insistent and sharp. Elias joins her quietly, wrapping his coat around her shoulders. No words are needed. Presence alone speaks volumes. She leans against him, letting the night air wash over fear and tension. "I'm still scared," she admits softly. "I know," he says, voice steady. "But fear doesn't define you anymore. You do." In the moonlight, she feels the past begin to lose its grip, if only for a moment. The next morning, Mara brings news that Daniel has been spotted in the town. The whisper Lena feared becomes concrete. Elias closes the shutters, locks the gates, and does not speak of panic. Instead, he looks at Lena and says, "You are not alone in this." For the first time, Lena realizes that love is not just warmth or laughter. It is a shield. She begins to see Elias not as distant or untouchable, but as the man willing to stand beside her when her past comes calling. Together they begin preparations, strategies for protection, and a silent vow. They will not let fear dictate their lives. Night falls thick and heavy. Lena and Elias sit together in the library, weapons of the mind and body ready should danger come. They share a quiet meal, exchanging glances that speak of mutual dependence and trust, forged in the storm of her revelation. Lena finally allows herself to rest her head on his shoulder, feeling the steady beat of his heart. "We will get through this," he whispers. She nods, eyes closing. For the first time, she believes that even with the past looming, there is a future worth holding, and someone to hold it with. Daniel's shadow falls over the coastal town like a storm cloud no one can outrun. Lena spots him first from the terrace, leaning against his car, face calm but eyes predatory. Her pulse spikes, hands trembling around the railing. Elias steps beside her, silent, green eyes narrowing, jaw set. Daniel's smile is familiar and terrifying. He speaks her name, but it carries the weight of a threat. Lena turns to Elias, whispering, "I can't do this alone." He grips her hand, firm and steady. "You won't have to," he replies, voice a vow. For the first time, Lena feels not fear alone, but the full force of someone standing between her and the past. Daniel arrives at the mansion entrance, the gravel crunching under his polished shoes. Mara intercepts him, voice steady but firm, warning him to leave. He smiles with cruelty thinly veiled. Lena watches from the doorway, fists clenched. Elias steps forward, the first barrier between Daniel and Lena, unflinching. Words are exchanged. Threats, old memories, promises of retribution. But Elias stands unshaken, the quiet authority of someone who will not bend. Lena feels a strange clarity. The fear that once ruled her life now stands small before the presence of someone who refuses to let her be alone. The confrontation escalates as Daniel attempts to enter the house. Elias blocks the doorway, eyes cold with determination. Mara calls for the police, but Daniel refuses to relent. Lena steps forward, voice shaking yet firm. "This ends now." Daniel laughs, but it is hollow. In that instant, Elias moves with a swiftness and precision born of desperation and love. Hands grip, bodies tense, and Daniel is finally pushed back, forced to retreat. Lena exhales, the first release of breath she has allowed herself in months. She looks at Elias, eyes wide. "You saved me." He only answers with a steady glance, letting her fear turn into relief and the first real taste of safety. After Daniel is escorted away, the house feels like a vessel emptied of dread. Lena collapses against Elias in the library, the storm outside now replaced by the gentle patter of rain on glass. She traces his jaw with a tentative hand, voice barely audible. "I thought I would never feel safe again." He tilts his head, brushing her hair back gently. "Safety isn't a place," he murmurs. "It's a hand you can hold." She leans closer, closing the gap between fear and trust, between the past and the present. In this room, surrounded by walls that have witnessed grief and survival, love blooms fully, without apology. That night, on the terrace under a clearing sky, stars reflecting in the calm sea, Lena and Elias sit wrapped in a shared blanket. Words are unnecessary. The past has been confronted, and the future is theirs to shape. Lena leans into him, listening to the steady rhythm of his breathing, feeling that protection and love are not fleeting illusions but steadfast truths. Elias whispers, "We've faced it together. Nothing can take that from us." Lena smiles, letting the night air carry away lingering fear. They sit in silence, the mansion behind them, a safe harbor, the ocean ahead, a promise of new beginnings. The months pass gently, each day stitched with the quiet certainty of love. Lena walks through the mansion gardens, now blooming with roses and jasmine, a sketchbook tucked under her arm. The ocean is calm, the cliffs softened by summer haze. Elias joins her, carrying a wicker basket of freshly baked bread and fruit. Their laughter carries across the terrace, a sound unburdened by fear. Lena stops to show him a new drawing, the mansion framed by crashing waves, herself and him small figures in the foreground. He studies it, green eyes softening. "It's beautiful," he says, "because it holds both of us." And for the first time, Lena believes her past will never define her again. One evening, they host a small gathering. Mara, neighbors, a few friends. The mansion hums with life, music drifting through open windows. Lena glances at Elias across the room, his attention gentle as he listens to laughter, offers a word or a smile. She realizes this is not a borrowed happiness, but a claimed one. Her past, once a constant shadow, now feels like a faint echo, a cautionary note in a symphony of joy. She squeezes his hand lightly, silently, promising. No secrets, no fear, only shared strength. Autumn arrives, painting the cliffs in amber and gold. Lena sketches on the terrace as Elias reads nearby. The world feels calm, predictable, and yet alive with quiet possibilities. She pauses, watching him, and realizes how deeply love has rooted in their shared life. Not flashy or urgent, but steady and enduring. He glances up, catching her gaze, a wordless acknowledgement passing between them. Survival transformed into happiness, passed into promise. The mansion, the sea, the sun and wind, all bear witness to their redemption. In the quiet of evening, Lena and Elias walk the cliffside hand in hand, lanterns flickering in the gardens behind them. She leans her head against his shoulder, feeling the steady rhythm of a life rebuilt. "We've come a long way," she murmurs. "And I never want to go back," he replies. The sea whispers, a soft hymn of renewal, and the mansion glows behind them, a sanctuary for all they have endured and overcome. The past has been faced, danger conquered, and the future now belongs entirely to them. On a clear morning, Lena sketches a new vision of their life. The mansion, the cliffs, the ocean, and herself, and Elias small but alive in the frame. She sets the drawing beside her cup of coffee and looks up to find him watching her, eyes tender, a soft smile curving his lips. She says. He nods, taking her hand, and together they step toward the terrace, toward the sunlight, toward the life they built from shadows and storms. The sea stretches endless before them, but for the first time, it feels like home.